Hello, everybody. Thank you again for joining us on this Tuesday. It's August 18th, and I am your host, Bernita Bradley. This is the Apparent Voice, and just want to say again, welcome. We'd love for you to go in and like and share the video, like and share the chat. Please share it with people who would like to talk about community service work and talk about the value in community doing the work of educating children and how collaborations in community could actually work better if we do it by driven by community. So today I have a wonderful guest, and she's kind of twofold, or she is twofold. So she's educator in a couple of different ways, and also former AmeriCorps member. And she's a family member of mine, a DNA match that I found, I think last year or year before last year. And so we were just talking about education one day online, and she was like, oh, these are some ways that we can help improve education. I was like, oh yeah, we need to do this as a show. So I invited her on. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Patricia Howard. And she'll be on in just a second. Hello, you're muted though.
Oh, I got it. I'm wonderful. I was working on it. It was popping up. Good afternoon,
Good
Bernita.
afternoon. Good afternoon. So me and Patricia have been going back and forth about our DNA, and we are related through the Goolsby Glover card family, all back down in the 18 somethings, right? And actually more recent than that, right? But because I think our Glovers go back to the early 1900s, and well, further than that, but that's where we found our match. But thank you for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Bernita. It's nice to be on your show.
Yes, yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do as far as education, and then we can go into the family stuff later. I'm excited about that. I want to get this education over because these parents need to know about education.
Okay, excellent. Well, as you said, my name is Patricia Howard. I always put that Glover in there too, because that's my maiden name and that's our connection as well. So it is Patricia Glover Howard. But I live in Brown Deer, Wisconsin, which is about 15 minutes away from Milwaukee, depending on which side of the street you're on.
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised here. I went to all public schools, and I'm not a teacher. Most people think that when you say education, they automatically think teacher. But my foray into education was just somebody who always loved school in a sense. I played school at home. I'm glad to be talking about parenting because everything that I learned in school or learned for the most part was learned in the home first. So I saw mama go back to school in her 40s. I was 7 years old, twirling around in the basement at MAT, Milwaukee Area Technical College. And she got a bachelor's degree, associate degree, bachelor's degree, and she got a master's degree. So I pretty much had to follow in her suits. I didn't go back to school until 25 years old. So it's never too late to go back to school. Took me about 8 years to do it, but I also have a bachelor's degree in business administration. With a specialization in management information systems, which is technology basically, and a master's degree in computer science education. Wow. And I've always wanted to be my own boss. Mom left a little bit of money behind, plus I had a really decent job. And then in February 14th, 2005, it was Valentine's Day, I gave myself a business. And the name of my business is PMG, Educational Services. It stands for my name, Patricia Magdalene Glover. But as God kind of evolved me and things changed, it now stands for perfecting my gifts, because we all have them. We all have gifts. We all have talents that God wants, and things that he wants us to do with them. So I'll
Right.
stop there.
Right, right. Oh Lord, just you said a whole mouthful. Um, a couple of things we got out of that, right? Like so let's go back to this like starting from where you at, right? Like I know it's a lot of parents right now who are going through stuff and they thinking like I want to help out in education. I want to get my degree or I want to continue my schooling. Like what was that like to wait and go? So here you go, clear transparency for me. I don't have a degree, right? And I've been doing all this work, and people are like, Bernita, you should get your degree. You should get your degree. So I'll be pushing back on people about degrees because I'll be like, look, you don't have to have a degree all the time, right? But
Right.
I know that like it's needed in a lot of areas. But with that being said, how was that for your mom going to school, like as a child? You seeing that, and you said that totally inspired you later on to say, if she could do it at 40 something, I know I could do this at 25.
Absolutely. I saw her, she struggled a little bit with reading. And
Mm-hmm.
so because of that, she went and got some help. My mother come from a family, well, her mom died when she was 8 months,
Mm-hmm.
and her dad died when she was 12.
Wow.
So I think it took her a little while, and she's the baby of about 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it took her a while for her to find herself. And I think she just kind of got around some people who were already doing it. But my mother was someone who said, closed mouths don't get fed.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever she needed, I think she just found a way to get what she needs. And
Right.
that's the same thing that I would tell parents. And you, for example, now that I know that you don't have that degree, you know we're going to have a conversation. That's right. I am here for everybody. I said I want to be the next Harriet Tubman of
Mm,
education.
mm.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Get
feel
the get the degree for you, because that was the thing for me. I was working at a place where they gave school free. I got a chance to go to school for free.
mm,
I did what my mama said. My mama said, it took me 7 years though, just to let you know.
mhm.
It was from 18 till 25. And so I was like, I want to make some money. I want to make some money. When I got out of high school,
Right, right.
Lord,
Get
I
all that
couldn't
school.
really, yes. So it was like me working one job, 2 jobs, and then 3 jobs. I was like, no, I need one good paying job. And so I listened to my mother. My mother said, find out what you're good at. Go to MATC, take a test, find out what you're good and gifted at. And so I took a test. I was good in math, good in science, etc. And at the same time, it was a place that had an opening for, they actually had student employment. You know, if you go to a college, you can also look for student jobs. And I looked in the book, and they had this job for a position over at Marquette University. And
Mhm.
so I applied for the job at Marquette University, and part of their benefit package was that you can go to school for free. And
Wow.
so I was able to take 6 credits free per semester.
And I think that's key too, because a lot of parents don't, you said two things, like your mom had an issue with reading, right? And right now the school systems are trying to like belittle parents for literacy rates. They're really like, oh, parents literacy rates in Detroit are so low and blah, blah, blah. And how can they educate their own children? But she was still getting it done, right? She was still
Mhm.
getting it done, even though it makes me think of my grandmother. My grandmother had a little bit of a literacy issue, right? But you wasn't gonna cheat her, and she clothed and fed all 12 of her children and everybody else in the community, and she was never broke a day in her life, right? And so it behooves us as a community to think that because a person has maybe some type of deficit in learning or whatever, that they aren't adequate enough to teach their own kids, because she still taught you lessons that
Oh,
that's valuable
oh,
today.
Well, absolutely. I think it's a misnomer too. With you and I, who have looked at genealogy and kind of understand how America was created,
Hmm.
I think that there's a lot of folks out here who can't read, both
Hmm.
black and white. People came over here illiterate. And
Yeah.
so I don't think that we've been really telling the truth about literacy rates, again, both black and white. So my thing is, this is what I tell the parents. And so you kind of asked me what I do. Right now, I tutor students. Right now, I'm going to the home, so it's private practice. I'm going directly to the home.
Mm.
Most of my tutoring has always been one-to-one
Okay.
because I like individual. I like to meet that student at their needs and
Hmm.
bring them up to their development, because everybody develops differently. Everybody
Hmm.
learns differently.
Yeah.
So I think I tell parents, even if, especially in the lower grades, even if you don't know how to do it, learn with them.
Hmm.
Learn
Yep.
with your
Yep.
kindergartner.
Yep.
Learn with your first
Yes.
grader. Learn with your second grader. Get a what is it called? A teacher's
Hmm.
guide that
Hmm.
has the answers in it, and practice before you work with your child. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that parents can do to empower themselves.
Right. And I really, I'm so glad you said that, because that's one of the things we was talking about last week about, like, schools, instead of you belittling and making parents feel like they're inadequate, like, show them the tools of how to do it. And that's what you're doing. That's what you're talking about. Like, learn with your child. If you have a literacy rate issue, learn how to read with your child. It's no shame in the game. Because, baby, I used to be a genius at math, I swear. But this new math they got out here now, I be looking at my daughter's side eye like, what is this? What is this? I don't even understand this. But I used to do some math. Like, I used to could do math off the top of my head. And the teacher actually accused me at one time of cheating because I could do the math without even doing the problem all the time on paper. I think if I took a test and it was 100 questions, I could do probably 97 of them without even doing the math problem and finish before everybody else in the class. But this new math is different, right? So now I noticed with my daughter in homeschool, I'm gonna have to learn with her. I'm gonna have to go through the process right along with her. Does that make me inadequate parent of educating my child? No, I'm actually doing both of us a benefit, right?
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Wow. So let's go back to this job. I like that you brought that up about the job offering to pay for school, because there may be jobs who offer for parents to go to school, right? How did you
Mhm.
know that? Like, how did you pursue that or look that up? I think you said at the college.
Right. I was at the college and I just read, the job description and saw that tuition reimbursement was
Mm,
part of the benefit package. Now, it
okay.
didn't pay a whole lot of money. I tell everybody now I was probably making maybe $7 an hour back then, and only was making about $9 after 8 hours. I mean,
Mm,
8 years rather, or 9 years. But the trade-off, that
mm,
6 credits free, and I'm talking about it was a private Catholic college, if you've heard of Marquette University.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Wow.
mm-hmm,
Wow.
mm-hmm. So,
Wow.
so for people who want to go back to school, that would be something I would negotiate. I would look for maybe go to a college or a 2-year university or something like that,
Mhm.
and they may have something like that as part of their benefit package. And if you want to go to school, what's 2 or 3 years?
Yeah.
Depending.
Yeah. Yeah, and people do it all the time where they like take that pay cut to make more. I heard a lady, oh my God, I cannot think of her name, but she teaches, she's a coach, and she was talking to this young girl who had gotten her master's degree and she wanted to go back and get her doctorate. And she came from an impoverished family. She was a first time graduate, right? And she went to Susie Orman, I think that's her name. And she went to her and was telling her that I really want to go and go back to school. But my family is saying, girl, you done made it. Like, you can make this amount with that master's degree. You need to take it, blah, blah, blah. But she was like, but no, I want to finish and get this. And so Susie Orman was helping her think through how she could actually work a less paying job right now. Like, work something, not necessarily what she would make if she was satisfied with the master's degree, make a little bit less right now so that she can go to school. But then the money she would be making after she got that PhD would supersede the years she would take on a sabbatical trying to work a regular job, you know,
Yeah.
and she would make the money back on the shorter end, but just waiting like 2 years to get that doctorate, right? And so I think a lot of times us as community, we don't see that, right? We don't, you know, and it's kind of hard. It's not even gonna say kind of hard. It's hard to have to work a full-time job and go to school. But when you're talking about like community colleges, like, it's ways for you to go to community college, right? And it don't have to be a big elaborate university. And community college costs way less than university, right? But it's a start.
Yep. And I mean, there's all different types of programs now. And especially with this COVID, most things are online. So it might be a perfect time for parents to go back, and there's school on television. There's, because people are in the military, I think they have school by mail or something like that. I remember watching school class, going to a class that was videotaped. So there was, I did all kinds of things to get to my 128 credits. I mean, I didn't take all of them at Marquette University. I took some credits at a technical college, just like I'm advising. Why pay $1,200 for a class when I could pay $300 for a class, right? So I did it, and they transfer it. You just make sure that you're taking a class that will transfer. So, I was my own advisor. I met a guy, I talked to a guy, and we were talking about school. And I was just starting out. And he said, when you graduate? I said, I don't know. I just started out. I just know I was in school. And he said, have a date in mind. He said, figure it out. And so I figured it out. I figured out how long it would take me. And then I was able to say, okay, February or May, 1996. And then I had a target. I had a goal to work for. And baby, let me tell you, I lost my mother, my father, and my stepfather only a few months after, or a couple of weeks after, 2 weeks after I graduated from college. Marquette with my bachelor's degree. My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and about 6 months later, she was gone. And then I lost that January. I lost my stepfather, and that February '98, I lost my dad. So it was right after I was obedient. I really say if I was obedient. I did not take one semester off. Let me tell you, it was a whole lot of stuff going on, but I never took a semester off. And I look back at that time now, if I would have took one semester off, my mama wouldn't have been at that graduation.
Wow.
She would
So
not
you
have
her
been.
you had done it, huh?
Yeah, she would not have been at that graduation. So if there's something in you that's telling you to go.
Yeah. So last summer, I was able to go to a couple of universities and just really explore what options are out there for people, because there's some people who may not want to do a full degree. They may want to do certification, or what a college is doing to, like you said, to help pay for schooling. And Georgia Tech, we have a cousin named Cherie Williams. She's actually the assistant president, vice president of Georgia Tech University, Piedmont. And she actually was telling me about the programs, and there was a young lady in there who said her son was doing terrible, 6th grade, terrible in school, wasn't motivated or anything. And she realized she hadn't done anything in her heart to show him that education was important outside of, like, go to school. And that's important too. Forgive me, I shouldn't have said nothing important, but so she decided to go back to school. She went to Georgia Piedmont. And she said on her graduation day, her son cried. But through the journey, her son started sitting down doing his work right along with her in the evenings. And they just really and she started seeing her son get less phone calls home, like he was turning in homework, and they were helping one another. He was asking her about her work and stuff like that. And it was like a mom and son tag team thing to get these degrees, right? And at her graduation, her son was graduating from 8th grade, and she was graduating from with her associate's degree or bachelor's, whichever one it was. And she said he just cried. He was like, dang, Mom, like you helped me. And I'm so proud of seeing you walk across this stage. Like you helped me get here because I didn't think I was going to graduate from 8th grade on time. So that's like wonderful, to be able to give that to your kids, Wow. Wow.
That is, you know what? And it is, I know other people, I've seen them where, like if there's a couple, one of them might sacrifice, one of them might be in school, and the other one might be working a job, and then the other person gets through school, and then so they help each other out, and they sacrifice at different times. So that's something that a household could do. If a couple can do it, a household could do it as well. Yeah. And, if you do have like tuition reimbursement, this is a suggestion I would give. If you're able to pay for it, say, for example, you're able to pay for that class and you got tuition reimbursement, every time you get that tuition reimbursement, just put it back in the bank. Don't touch it. Then you can pay for the next class. You could just, you don't need no new money. You don't need no new money. We come from people who literally had nothing and turned it into something. Surely we could take something and turn it into something.
And thinking about that coming from little and making a whole lot out of it. So I told you stories about, we have an uncle from Georgia, he was from Georgia, ended up going to North Carolina. And they ended up starting their own school in the living room of their houses. And I finally found evidence of that. So Beth Hawkins, who's watching, she actually forwarded me the evidence of our uncle's name on this document where he's founded the school there. He went to the school board. He was like, my kids deserve an education and they're going to get it. And they shouldn't be walking 10 miles and all this weather, whatever. And he petitioned 3 times to the Department of Education there to get a school. They kept telling him no. Then finally, they told him, okay, you can have a school, but we won't build it. And so he said, okay, well, fine. He extended his house, him and some neighbors extended his house and made a shed off the house to make it a school. In the interim time, they had it in the living room. So they ended up, him and his wife was assistant dean, he was whatever, and they ended up making him a superintendent over his school district, right? So he became a district. But later on, that school became a feeder school for the same schools that some of our Black nationalists went to, right? And it's like, to see his passion for education. And then I think about a lot of the people that I've met on my journey of finding my family, like it's so many of us who have a passion for education. Like we're out here doing civil rights movement work, and we're out here like, no, our children. And like, I didn't even know that about the Glovers. I didn't even know that. I was like, that's my uncle. What? Like, oh my God, founded a school in North Carolina back in 26. So I'll share that. I'll share the document. And I was saving that for Beth sent it to me like, I think about a week or so ago. And I said, when I get on the show, I'm going to save it and I'm going to tell her. So
I'm excited about that. What's the first name?
One moment. I will tell you. Let me go to Beth.
That is exciting.
So let me ask you this though, while I'm looking this up, you talked about AmeriCorps. We were AmeriCorps members. Didn't know that you had been an AmeriCorps member. And so for everybody who don't know, AmeriCorps is a national service member. People kind of equate it to the Peace Corps. How you have people who live in a community and they say, well, I'm gonna go over to Africa and I'm gonna serve in Africa. Well, AmeriCorps is the domestic Peace Corps. So what we do is we take a sabbatical from our everyday lives and we serve here in our own communities. Serving in your community, I'll let you explain. You go ahead and explain while I look for it.
Yeah. So that was definitely something that I knew that we had in common, and we're definitely kin in that way. Service is just something that you just automatically do. And so I was working a full-time job and also running my business at the same time. One thing was kind of dying down, and I wasn't sure of my next moves. I was a little burned out and taken aback with education because it's political. And so that can be draining. Politics can be draining when you're really trying to help people. And so I decided to serve. I had heard about an opportunity with AmeriCorps, and the program that they was starting was called the Wisconsin Reading Corps program. And Wisconsin Reading Corps started in Minnesota, and I think they're in about 8 different states. And their goal is to work with, like you said, to solve a problem more or less using volunteers. And the thing that we were working on was literacy, with K-3 literacy. And so the goal was to have an elementary specialist, literacy specialist, work full-time with a coach, an internal coach and an external coach. And they teach you about 10 different interventions, reading interventions. We were only working on reading. You go through training for about a week. You're learning about the science of reading. I had already had a very good grasp in that. And so I was assigned to a school for 5 days a week. And I was pulling students. I had a caseload of about 20 students. And so I was pulling out those students one by one for about 20 minutes. And I was working on one intervention with them, like per day for the most part, during that 20-minute session. And so I did that for one term. And it was, to be honest, it was really the most life-changing thing for me. And why was it the reason why it was the most life-changing thing for me is because right before that, I had listened to, what is his name? The guy, Just Mercy. Brian Stevenson. Yeah, Brian Stevenson. Yeah. And he was talking about helping people, and he was talking about poverty. And he was talking about how we can't have like a 10-foot view of poverty, that we had to get up close and proximate to it. And so, and so I worked at a school that had 99% poverty. They probably had 0%. The third graders were reading at 0%. 99 to 100% free lunch. And so I got a chance to see poverty up close and personal. Wow. And I tell you, when I work with them children, I just saw myself. And although, I grew up poor or in poverty, at least I thought I did, we still had books, right? We still had books. We had encyclopedias. We had thesauruses. We learned how to read. And so I just was imparting to them. They didn't have it. They didn't know what they didn't know. And I just loved on them. I called that my little love project. And we just we had a wonderful time. I never let them know that, whatever they didn't have, whether it was rotten teeth at kindergarten, I'm just keeping it real. Whatever it was, I never let them think that they were anything less than a child of God. I didn't. That was a spirit that I carried into that room, and it changed me. It changed me.
And what you made was pennies on dollars,
Girl,
right?
yeah, let's talk
Like
about that part. Woo. What was that? $1,000 a month, and you
a
working
month.
for 160 hours.
Yes, you
I think
are.
it equates down to about $2 an hour.
I want to say it was like $3 and I think it was $3.49 or something like that. But the thing was like when you're doing the work, it's kind of like you're oblivious to that you're not making no money because you walk in there and one of those babies' eyes look up at you and be like, Miss Bradley, such and such, and just like tell you their whole life story. And you just like, oh, I love you, baby. Like, I just love you. Like, who am I that you just trusted it in me? And the teachers were just like, are so happy that they have AmeriCorps members because we doing that grunt work that they don't have like kind of the autonomy to do, right? They don't have the flexibility to do it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it was a ball. It was a ball.
so so the other thing is about AmeriCorps. So I would invite anybody to go and look up AmeriCorps. So I served 2 terms. I served AmeriCorps and I served AmeriCorps Vista, one in DPS schools, a full 11 months, and then a full 12 months with Detroit Parent Network, where I helped. As a Vista, you help build capacity. So we did outreach and recruitment. And that spearheaded me into what I do now, like outreach and recruitment. Like I was out in the field recruiting parents, recruiting students, helping to develop programming for students. And they gave me so they gave me an educational piece too that I would have never had because I went through all these trainings and got these certifications to do stuff that I never would have got before, right? Or just as a volunteer, But and we got an education award, right? So that helped us with
Oh
schooling.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was able to pay for some graduate classes. I think a couple of graduate classes. And I saw your picture with Michelle Obama, right? Can you tell me a
Yes,
little bit
yes.
about that? How
Oh
did
my
that
God, I
happen?
love her. I love her. So I just being who I am, like I'm always a volunteer somewhere. I'm always a volunteer. Somebody say something, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And they invited us. She was coming to Wayne State University here to do some stuff, a college access program with some kids. They invited us to come, and I helped paint signs the first time I met her. And afterwards, the lady was like, I need extra people to stay to help me do something. Not that I thought I was going to meet Michelle. I just was helping to set up for the next day. Everybody else was ready to go. So me and a couple other people stayed. And because we stayed, she said, oh, I got something special for y'all tomorrow. I'm going to put you in a special work area that I know you're going to enjoy. And so I literally was right next to her on the stage. I got to work with the Secret Service as securing the space where the upper echelon people sat, right? And so I'm sitting there, I'm looking, and I'm like, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's Anita Baker. Oh, that's okay. But I had to stay in composure, right? I got my AmeriCorps shirt on. I'm working, right? And then later on, she comes through and she hugs me, and I was like, oh my God, I got hugged by
I saw it on your
Michelle Obama,
face.
right? Right. So then the second time I was not AmeriCorps, but I was working for an organization. And again, people seeing what I do. And I love people. And one of my former bosses called me and him and Ashley was like, Bernita, I need you to do me a favor. And mind you, another gift, like around the time my mother had just died and I was at home and our man, he was like, I know your mom just passed. And in his mind, he's like, this is a gift to kind of like get you out of this space. And because I was working my butt off, even in the midst of my mama dying. And he said, I need to know if you'll do it for me. I don't know for sure if you feel like it, but blah, blah, blah. He was like, well, I need you to drive for Michelle Obama. I was like, drive for Michelle Obama? What do you mean? Who? I said, you don't get to ask nobody to do that. You tell them they gonna drive for Michelle Obama, right? And so I was like, me drive for Michelle Obama? So they took us through these clearances and all this kind of stuff. And I did not get to drive her personally, but I drove her staff behind her car. I swear. Then when I got I didn't even think I was going to get a chance to meet her. When I met her, she turned and looked at me and she just said, "Are you all right?" So she knew my mom had died. And I was like, I wanted to be like, "No, I'm not." But I was in composure. I was like, "Yes, I'm fine." She was like, and she hugged me and she said, "We gonna take care of those kids, honey. We gonna take care of these babies." And I said, "Yes, we are."
Oh, I was
So
so
that's
excited to.
everybody see.
Oh,
Go
wow. I
ahead.
was so excited to know that we were going to be talking today, knowing that Michelle Obama was on yesterday, on DNC yesterday. And I know we would
Yeah,
get a chance to talk about that. Wow. And
yeah,
so she remembered, I mean, she
yeah,
acknowledged that your mom had passed. That's so
yeah.
thoughtful. Yeah, that
It
seems
is.
like the
It
kind of,
is.
yeah, seems like the kind of spirit she
Each
had.
person that she met that day, like she met the select students that went up and spoke at the event and stuff like that. But each person, she took like this time with them. Like she took this moment with them. Like we were standing off over there waiting for her to have her moment. Like it wasn't an assembly line, like, oh, hug, snap, okay, see you later. It was like a moment. And I was like, she has asked about these people. But it was so awesome because I showed up early in the morning and I couldn't tell people where I couldn't use cell phones. I couldn't this and that. We had to go through these clearances.
Oh,
My kids had to go through a clearance, but it was just an amazing moment. I had to go somewhere, pick up a vehicle, and then come another place and come here. I felt like I was like, I'm like I'm
you are?
CIA. But it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
That
Yeah, it
is
was wonderful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just really wanted you to come on today just for us to talk through and just really go over because I know there's a lot of parents right now who are thinking there might be people like you who's thinking, how do I support, right? But they can do tutoring. They can do what you're doing.
Mhm.
They can find families that may not be able to pay like a full-time teacher to come and do something, but a couple of times a month might pay somebody, and heck, you can do tutoring virtually now from across the country, right?
Mhm.
So for those out there who are strong in math or who are community people who say like, I just got this degree and I ain't done nothing with it. This was my area. And I'm like, you might can tutor some kids and support some families
That's
through this pandemic education that we have, right?
that's right. Yeah, and get high school students, right? Because they're going to be cheaper. Get college
Yeah,
students, they're going to be cheaper. Yep.
yeah,
So, where there is a will, there is a way. And I'm a firm believer that God, He makes provisions. He makes provisions for the things that you want to do. He will move mountains for the things that you want to do. And faith is currency. It's invisible money. It
yeah,
really
yeah.
is.
Yeah, yes, it is. I guarantee you it is. So my final gift to you, let me show you right here. I'm gonna share my screen, Jada. Oh, forgive me. I forgot to ask her to let me share my screen. It may take a second for her to let me share my screen. Can I share? Oh, I can share. Bam.
Oh.
Okay, my final gift to you is here is our family. So Eli Glover. Eli Glover. Wait, no, wrong screen, wrong screen, wrong screen. Which one is it?
That's a Rosenwald school. Oh, it was a Rosenwald school.
So yes, it was a Rosenwald school.
I
Yes,
guess
it
it would
was.
have to be, huh?
Yes, and Beth Hawkins actually helped me research this and figured it out for me, helped me find the actual paperwork because I knew it was in existence because it was in our family papers, but I could
Mhm.
not find. How do I blow this up?
And I
How do
just
I
want
make?
to make sure, I know we don't have a lot of time, but we do, with parents trying to decide whether they're going to send their kids back to school or do virtual. Where are you? What's happening in Michigan around that
Yeah,
for
so
you?
my daughter was doing homeschooling, just simply because of the fact that everything right now is up in the air. And literally, their school told us this week that they were not going to even be doing temperature checks, not even as much as temperature checks. They're ordering one mask per student. That's a washable mask, and then they're ordering 500 other masks that are disposable masks for the year. And so they're expecting these kids to keep up with this one mask. And everything on webinar the other day was just like I posted it on Facebook. It was terrible. We asked, like, why aren't you doing at least temperature checks? He was like, well, I thought it was a terrible use of resources and I wasn't going to do that.
Wow.
And my
So you're
daughter
going to
was sitting here listening.
Oh,
Go
your
ahead.
daughter was what? Mm-hmm. Your daughter.
She
Go
was
ahead.
listening to it and she was total in agreement. Like, her and her friends was like, they really don't care about us. They're not trying to protect us. And so transparency, she doesn't go to Detroit Public Schools. She go to another district, but still at the same time, it's like, it's so much of that going on and parents feel uncertain. So I'm one who's chosen to homeschool. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And
Okay.
this
Yeah.
education will be part of our homeschooling, like helping her to know her own family's information and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. You're going to do that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So here is our family's. So the name of the school was Weathers Grove School. And the name of
Oh,
the person who submitted this report was Louise Howell. And this was the P.O. box for the actual school and the telephone number for the school. And the name of the chairperson was Ezra Bridges. So we have Bridges in our family name too. So I'm wondering if that's family. And I want to say we have
really?
Howe. Yeah, I want to say we have Howe somewhere in there. But here is the official letter for Eli Glover.
What,
So
girl?
Weathers
No,
Grove
back in
School
my
had its
day.
beginning. Yep, in 1924, the very first classes were taught in the home of Eli Glover, which was located about 4 miles northeast of Popeville in North Carolina. Excuse me. The first teacher was Ada Foster. After the first year of having classes, and we have Foster in our family name too, so I'm wondering if that was a family member. After the first year of having classes in the Glover home, the commitment, oh, they spelled it wrong. Who were, the committee men
Committee
who were
men.
Eli Glover, yep, Pink Hunt, and William Glover was
Oh
also a
my
committee.
goodness.
Yes,
So, oh my God. I'm
located
just,
at a vacant house about a mile from the Glover home, and they rented the house for the school. There was a very large room in the house, and it was used for a classroom. Also, there was a large fireplace and blah, blah, blah. So in 1927, Eli Glover gave land near his home to build one-room school. A large closet was built at the entrance to furnish space for the pupils' coats and wraps. Then it goes on to say, W.A. Roberts taught for 2 years in the little school, and he was followed by Gertrude Riley, who also taught there for 2 years. Then came Marion Ferris and Miss Wesson. I think Ferris is in our family name. I wonder if that's a person. And then who stayed for 2 years. After she departed, Louise Wilson came and taught for 2 years before returning to college to complete her education. Susan Cooper, and Cooper is in our family name, was the next teacher to work at Weathers Grove, who remained there until the school closed. The school closed, I think it was in the 1940s, but it was a feeder school. It became a feeder school to a lot of the other schools around there. So I believe the school only went up to 7th grade. Yep. Yep. So
oh,
that's our family history.
and this is the Glovers that's related to you.
Yeah, and you too. So Eli is
And me too.
Charles Glover and George Washington Glover. This is their brother. Eli was
Charles
one of the
Glover.
brothers.
You seen
Huh?
Charles Glover?
Mm-hmm.
You seen Charles
Yep.
Glover? You,
Yep.
oh, girl, here's I don't know if you remember this, but okay, so my grandfather is Charles Glover. His father's name is Charles Glover, so he's the first. So I've
Yeah.
been trying to solidify who Charles Glover, the first father is. And just recently, I just want to say this, I found like this 1900 census with, I believe, my 2 times great grandmother on my maternal side. and the last name is Gordon. And
Yeah.
by that last name Gordon, I saw a William Glover. Like that was like
Hmm.
just this week. And so I'm like so leaning towards William Glover as a father of Charles Glover, my 2 times great grandfather. So William would be my 3 times. And if
Yeah.
you didn't just give me that information, oh, I can't wait to find out if this is real.
So,
You!
so yeah, so we gonna have to talk offline, but I'm gonna share everything that I have with you. And thank you for coming on today. You really made my day. You really made this moment wonderful. Just talking to, I mean, you bring out so many pointers about education, and I just really want, in closing, can you tell parents how they can reach you, or educators how they might can reach you?
Oh, absolutely. So again, my name is Patricia Glover Howard. I'll just spell it GLOV as in Victor, ER hyphenated Howard, just like the first name. Phone number is 414-520-2748, and email address is PMG Education, P perfecting, M my G gifts, PMG Education @gmail.com. So, and
Yep. And
I'm always on Facebook. You know, we're gonna get on there as soon as we get off of here.
right.
And I'm on LinkedIn, right? I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, and I think I have Instagram as well. So I'm out there. Find me.
Yes, yes. And so thank you guys so much. This has been the apparent voice. Please stay tuned for shows later on this day today on the National Parent Union site also. And again, thank you to the National Parent Union for sponsoring this show. And we are signing out. Thank you.
Thank you.